All right, it's time for yet another Depth Diary. It's number 41, Heinlein patch number 2. As, of course, instead of number 2, this is part 2 of that Heinlein patch. As our good friend Wiz, our game director for Stellaris, has once again gone out and put a post up. And today we'll be talking about combat fleet overhauls. As right now in the game, you very much throw any ship at the enemy, and it doesn't really matter what you do. You've got your destroyers, you put a tachyon lance on there, and it pretty much just bashes everything over the head. However, it looks like that we're going to have some dedicated roles on our ship, so we actually will have very specific fleet designs being set up in the very near future, designed to tackle the enemy. And I hope that this is going to help out with AI as well, because at the moment it's really easy to completely outrange the enemy with your tachyon battleships and pretty much take it from there, really. So we're going to have dedicated roles. One of the most frequent critique of the ship types in Stellaris is that they do not have roles, as I mentioned. Besides Corvette being unable to mount large weapons, there is basically no difference in what type of weapon can be mounted on what type of hull. Meaning there's no actual reason to put a proper mix of ship types. Yeah, destroyers and battleships in my case. Often the best strategy is to find a single effective design, such as an old Corvette fleet on release, or currently the popular destroyer tachyon lance fleet. Yeah, you can point at somebody else for that one. To address this, we sat down and thought about roles of each type of ship could have, and came out with the following. Looks like Corvettes are going to be fast, agile ships designed to take out capital ships at close range. Destroyers are screens for capital ships that excel in taking down corvettes and countering strike and missile craft. Cruisers are close-range capital ship brawlers that tank enemy fire and engage enemy destroyers and capital ships, and battleships as artillery and carriers for long-range fire support. Now, this is pretty much what I was hoping from the get-go. You know, carriers right now are completely useless. They don't really do all that much, and battleships is pretty much the mainstay of my fleets, which is rather cool. Somewhat simplistic, you could say that Corvettes are good against cruisers, battleships. Destroyers are good against corvettes and strike craft. Cruisers are good against destroyers, cruisers, and battleships, depending on their design, and battleships against cruisers. So looking at this right now, I can already see cruisers being the number one type of ship that we're going to be seeing soon, considering they're good against destroyers, cruisers, and battleships. We'll have a fair mix of those in our fleets, and of course battleships against cruisers and other battleships and fixed installations. So maybe like fortification busters or something along those lines. This change could give each ship a clear purpose while allowing some flexibility within by purpose throughout the ship designer. For instance, cruisers can be tough battleship killers or fast attack ships. So there you have it, as I mentioned with the cruiser stuff. In order to make this specialization possible, hold on, let me just quickly tackle back there. At the very start, Corvettes should not have torpedoes. Destroyers lack targeting to make them effective Corvette killers. The roles will instead become fully in play as technology advances and capital ships enter the stage. In order to make this specialization possible, we've made a few changes to ship designs. First of all, we have added 3 new weapon slot types. So, starting off with torpedoes and energy torpedo weapons for short extreme damage on corvettes. So basically we'll have torpedo corvettes, which is kind of cool. Also on cruisers apparently. So there's your mixed weapon design. Point defense cannons, primary defense against missiles, torpedoes, and fighters. The destroyers can be designed to field large amount of point defense weapons. That's nice. Extra large, and this is the one that I've been looking for. Weapon slot for massive long range. I can only fire in an fixed arc ahead, tachyons, arc emitters, and mega cannons, whatever mega cannons are. And these can be mounted on battleships and take the whole bow section. So basically, we're going to have extra large slots specifically for lances and arc emitters, which is going to be rather cool. So because, you know, right now the game is pretty much dominated by putting tachyons on pretty much everything and destroying everything. We've also tweaked ship modules and retired a couple of modules that we feel did not fit the new design. So it's no longer possible to make a Corvette killer battleship with huge amounts of small weapons, which I've done in the past. While they are realistic, while there's a realistic no reason you couldn't mount small weapons on a battleship, going with realism angle, which is simply put us right back where we are right now. So we choose to sacrifice some realism for what we feel is better gameplay, which makes sense. You know, having the min-max your fleet designs would be fun, so that's always nice. Utility slot rework, another area that we felt sorely needed. I needed some attention is the utility slots. Right now, there's often little meaningful choice, with the best strategy usually being to stack either armor or shields, depending on ship size, enemy weapons, and tech level, which is true. You know, you do quite a lot of scouting. You take a look at what the enemy has, what kind of designs they have, what their weapon types are, and then you modify your fleet based upon that, such as shield capacitors or regenerative hull, which nobody uses. Either are woefully underpowered or extremely overpowered. To address these issues, we've made the following changes. The amount of damage reduction provided by armor now depends on the size of the ship. So a single piece of armor will do more for a Corvette than for a battleship. This should make armor useful even for smaller ships. That's good. Like having like a percentage based on that rather than a raw figure is rather nice. Special utilities such as crystalline hull plating, shield capacitor, etc. will use our own slot type that is limited by hull size, so you will only have to balance against each other instead of having also, okay, so basically putting the entire loads full of crystalline hull plating, etc. A new utility type, Afterburners, provides additional combat speed, allowing the design ships that can close quickly with your opponents. I'd like to actually take that 1 point better. I used to play a lot of EVE Online, and they have micro jump drives in that game, which allows you to pretty much, you know, you got your battleships, and they allow you to quickly jump halfway across the grid right on top of the enemy, which could be, you know, interesting as well. Something like smart bombs or something along those lines, but you know, let's not go too EVE-ish just yet. MISC changes and notes. As part of these changes, we'll be looking over the balance of every weapon in the game, especially strikecraft, point defense, and creature weapons. Yes, because right now they're terrible. Well, except for point defense, but yeah. Combat computers will be changed from being universal to being based on one ship type, so Corvettes will have specific Corvette computers. Oh, that's nice. That will be focused on boosting evasion, while destroyers will have computers to improve targeting. That's good. That makes sense for, you know, the ship design stuff. We're changing emergency FTL that will set all fleets to MIA, meaning that fleets successfully escape combat will always be able to flee to friendly space rather than getting stuck in a ping pong to death, which makes sense. You know, jumping out of an enemy system and then all of a sudden, you know, your fleet arrives in another system that is just full of combat stations is a bit annoying. Then again, you should be able to destroy it. To compensate, we're making it so that every ship, no matter how undamaged, has a chance to be lost while using your emergency FTL. So it's always a risky maneuver. That's cool. That's crazy Ivan, basically. We're looking to create a special class of flagship. Oh, baby. This is what we're looking at here. A special class of flagship that are limited in number by a fleet size and the only ones able to use auras instead of all aura battleship fleets. That is good. Having one particular type of ship that has special bonuses as a flagship is great. It would be even better if you had like a morale attached to that as well. Like your fleet morale lowers or something along that line that impacts performance. Who knows? That'd be interesting. Morale's already in the game. Armies on the ground use it, but then again, armies on the ground are absolutely terrible. So yeah. We're looking to balance the different FTL types to make it less hard to catch enemy fleets. Some of the current ideas is having fleet speeds depending on how far away you are from friendly space and thus resupply, thus boosting the speed of warp. Interesting idea. Don't think it's going to work very well with, say, hyperdrive or a wormhole drive, but yeah. We're looking into fleet formations, thank God. Finally, and some basic orders during combat, target priority, etc. At minimum, the basic fleet formation will be changed to be more sensible. No more Corvette suicide leading the charts. Good. We can have some input in our stuff regarding combat. And in all honesty, looking at all the Paradox games in the past, I think that's one of the first time you can actually do that. In games like Crusader Kings, EU4, you don't really have the ability to directly impact any of the battle whatsoever. You all have to preset that beforehand. Okay, so here we got a couple of pictures. Note that the change list in his depth diary are not fully done, and some may not show up in the below screenshot. So there you got the torpedoes they were talking about in the Corvette. So basically, a single torpedo launcher, it just nukes the enemy with proton torpedoes, actually. So if you could have like a super crazy evasive striker Corvette with just tons and tons of torpedoes flying towards the enemy, and they'll just continuously blast those out. That'd be kind of cool, especially if you can get a point defense on there as well. But like they mentioned, we will have specific point defense slots, so maybe with like a destroyer, but then again, the evasion will not be nearly as good, etc. What do we got here? This looks like a destroyer design, point defense slots, like I mentioned, some small disruptor weapons, some neutronium on there, some 0-point defense. This looks like a cruiser right here. Yeah, also again torpedoes on there, which is nice. But they mentioned it's a point-blank range weapons, like super short range. So this will pretty much be like a suicide cruiser right here. It looks pretty fast. It's still no notice of any of the thrusters in there or the afterburners they were talking about, but this is just a mock-up, no doubt. And there is the XL size tachyon lances, really. So basically, it looks like our battleships is going to be not nearly as flexible as they were in the past. I really hope that we're going to see something along the lines of, say, a Dreadnought with like 4 slots or something like that. That'd be cool. There's the Aura we were talking about. Oh, this is probably the flagship. They were mentioned before. That's nice. And some basic formations. That's good. Okay, cool. No, that looks like that's all for this week. And next week we'll be talking about more features and changes coming in Heinlein. Thank you, Wiz. Very clear what we're going to be seeing next week. A very solid Depth Diary this week. A lot of changes coming up, especially to fleet designs and fleet setups and, you know, how things are going to work in the future. And also it looks like we're going to get some micromanagement with the actual battles, something that I'm looking forward to myself. Well, that wraps up this week's Depth Diary. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, take good care of yourselves and each other.